Welcome back into East Coast Bias. Brian Barrett in for JJ with House and Raheem. All right, so picking up, guys, with some of these teams, are they real contenders or not? Let's go to the Eastern Conference to a team that is the number 2 seed, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have been really good. They had this incredible win against Dallas on Tuesday night. You got Max Strus hitting crazy shots, hitting 5 threes. I don't know what Dallas was doing defensively at the end of that fourth quarter there. But nonetheless, this Cavaliers team, it's interesting to me. The Mobley and Allen pairing, they have just a 113.5 offensive rating together, which would be 20th in the NBA. The defense is really good with those two guys on the court. Mitchell's been awesome for them. And Strus, I mentioned how he hit all these shots on Tuesday night. He's only shooting 41.8% from the field, which is 139th of 144 qualifiers. And he's 138th in three-point percentage at 34.3%. Yet the offense has been good with him. And the other thing that I would mention is, okay, so they spent all their money to get a wing. I don't think that Strus can defend some of the premier wings, and he hasn't shot the ball well, which is obviously an issue for them. Garland has not had the best season as he's been banged up. The Mobley-Allen pairing, as great as it looks at times, I think it can be concerning in the postseason. And then the other thing that I can't get out of the back of my mind is the Knicks series last year. They gave up 18.2 second chance points per game. No team this year is north of 17. So I feel like you have real questions about, does the roster even fit despite their record? The toughness level of this team. Donovan Mitchell, as great as he's playing and as great as his time spent in Cleveland, he could be out the door at the end of the season. He may ask for a trade. And you have a coach that not exactly the most experienced in the Eastern Conference compared to the rest of these guys. When I look at it, House, I just don't trust them. I really don't. I look at other teams that could threaten to win the East. We talked about Miami. The Knicks, if they're healthy, could certainly be one of those teams. We talk about the Bucks. And maybe I'm going to regret saying this. I don't take the Cavaliers seriously.
Well, I think you're in the right frame of mind, BB. And the reason is twofold. You mentioned the coach, and that has been something that has had a lot of us skeptical about them and you know, perhaps the only real ceiling. But they're 7-12. Against Eastern Conference teams with winning records. Now, they are on the brink of the 40-20 rule. If they win their next 2 games and they have road games at Chicago and Detroit, they will get to 40 wins before the 20 losses. So that means that they're a legit team. And when their defensive rating is as extraordinary as it is, you have to take them seriously. They lose games when Donovan Mitchell can't play. They're 6-5 with him, when he's out. But you know, the thing with the Cavs is the trust factor, and I just can't get there, Dream. I can't get there with them.
So I can't get there at all. And this is so funny because I think they're the antithesis of the Miami Heat. How we say the Miami Heat, their regular season record and with their resume, it just doesn't. It's not going to show us what they're going to do in the postseason. You could say the same thing about this Cleveland Cavaliers team. And you look at the Cavaliers since the new year, they've been rolling 20-5. They have the highest net rating in the league, plus 12.2, offensive rating of 120, defensive rating of 107. They're rolling, but how can you trust JB Bickerstaff? And look, last year in the postseason, they got outcoached by playoff Thibs. And we know playoff Thibs is typically not the guy. Like, this is a regular season head coach. So I look at it like this. You got the Cleveland Cavaliers. They played 2 bigs last year. You played 2 bigs and you still got out-rebounded. So this is not a good defensive rebounding team. And then when you go under the hood, what do they do in the half court? They're 18th in half court offensive rating. However, they're second in points in transition. So this is a team that they score a ton in transition, but when the game slows down, as it did in the playoffs last year against the Knicks, this is not a offense that you can totally trust. So I'm not trusting this team. I'm not trusting the coach. They are 27-1 to win the NBA title for a reason. Typically, when you see a team with this record, they're not 27-1. FanDuel has this thing priced properly.
What about the rest of the season? Would you take the Bucks at plus 150 to win the division, or do you think the Cavs will hold on?
That is actually a good bet because the Bucks right now, as the time we're recording, recording this on Wednesday, the Bucks are just one game behind. So I do think the Bucks can catch them.
Did I confess? I already have that ticket. I have Milwaukee winning that, and not even as a good a price. I think I had it like plus 135. I might have to double down on the plus 150 now. That game last night, I mean, the game against Dallas, if it comes down to that, I'm going to have some issues. I mean, if that ends up being the decider between those two teams, it's going to be, an all-timer potentially. But I do think the Bucks are kind of the role that they're on is real, and I do think that they're going to catch the Cavs, BB.
I like that. Plus 150. It seems like good value for a Bucks team that it seems like they're getting it together. Okay, so let's go to maybe the weirdest team in the NBA that's good, the New Orleans Pelicans. So this is fascinating to me because their social media team is getting into it with analysts. They're putting out videos of analysts on their Twitter feed. By the way, I think New Orleans ended up losing the night they put that video out. But nonetheless, if you look at one of the amazing things about this team is if you look at their most used lineup that's played 350 minutes together, Valanciunas, McCollum, Ingram, Zion, and Herb Jones. They have a negative net rating. They've been outscored by 2.4 points per 100 possessions. Look across the league, these contenders. Denver's best group, 14.1 in the positive. The Wolves, plus 9.9. The Bucks, plus 15.3. The Celtics, plus 13.8. Their best or their most used lineup has been outscored on the season. It's incredible. The Ingram Zion thing has never made total sense. And they've actually been really good with both of them off the court, which again is bizarre because those are two guys that have made all-star teams in the past. Things that concern me, they're 18th in made threes per game. Now, they are 8th in free throws, but 18th in made threes is not great. McCollum shot the ball well for them. He's over 42%. Herb Jones has on low volume. And Zion, when they actually give him the ball, he's been really good in terms of this whole point Zion thing. He's in the 81st percentile as a pick and roll ball handler. But I just feel like from a game-to-game basis, you don't really know what you're going to get. And I feel like that's difficult, Raheem, when you go into a postseason series and they have a very deep team. They have a lot of options. I just feel like maybe there needs to be like some consolidation with this team in the future because I don't think they really have the identity that, I don't know if they want, the identity they want is maybe the wrong way to say it, but they don't really have an identity to me. They're really talented, but I don't really know. Like if you ask me, hey, what are the Pelicans known for? I wouldn't be able to tell you. Like a bunch of other teams I could. Like the Celtics, they're going to take a bunch of threes, right? Like I can tell you what a lot of other teams do. I don't know what the Pelicans do.
I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to the Pelicans. This is an inconsistent team who has no identity, whose stars don't match up with one another. I mean, you have Zion Williamson who can score in the paint at will, but can't shoot from the outside. And then you have Brandon Ingram, who's just a mid-range monster who doesn't really shoot from the outside. So, the stars just don't fit, but it just feels like they're so deep and they're so stacked with talent that they get by on that. So, night to night, you just never know what you're going to get. I mean, you look at their records against teams below 500, 17-9. You look at the records against teams above 500, 18-15. So this is a good, solid team, but I just don't think that they have it all together to be able to do anything significant.
Yeah, this is a team. It's just a true enigma. And it is, at least me, I had a bunch of future exposure to them last year. That 2022-2023 season where they arrived on January the 1st with the best record in the Western Conference. I had regular season wins for the Pelicans. I had all kinds of exposure with them. And then they went on that losing streak. And, the thing with them, you guys both touched on it. I don't think they know who their best five is. Because, it feels like a constant chemistry experiment ever since we got excited by them in the 2021-2022 playoffs against the Suns, where they showed a toughness. They had a gritty identity. Now, part of that is because, we haven't had extended health out of Zion, and Brandon Ingram's gotten dinged a couple times. But, I don't know what to do with them. I expect to find them in the play-in. And it's a flip of the coin as to whether or not they make it into play. I think they can beat all the teams that they will confront in the play-in, but I also could see them losing. So I don't know.
They're just so bizarre. You look at, let's say, the in-season tournament. That game against the Lakers. What was that? Like, it's one of the biggest nights in the history of your franchise, and you just completely don't show up. So that's who the Pelicans are. You think they're turning the corner. You think they're about to make this big leap, and then they get blown out by the Lakers. I just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, and one of the things that annoys me about them, Raheem, you alluded to it, is Brandon Ingram only takes 4.3 threes per game. I don't understand players like that. Go behind the three-point line. It's a much more, I've never understood that. In the playoffs, it's great if you can hit those shots because sometimes we've seen it with Kawhi in the past, you're going to have to hit difficult twos. But during the regular season, you should be taking more threes. It never made sense to me when guys do stuff like that. And Brandon Ingram, he's just like this mid-range guy. Great. Well, you know what? The Suns and the Bucks, when they played in the finals a couple of years ago, they hit the same amount of threes, but the Bucks took way more, and the Bucks won the series. If Phoenix took more threes, maybe they would have had a better chance at winning the NBA title. But anyway, it's just math.